Hello, hello. Welcome to the place for offbeat health professionals who have bravely swapped their healthcare hats for non-clinical creative caps. I'm Caitlin, a psychologist turned copywriter, and this is Healers with Hustles. Bronwyn Wood is an endorsed health psychologist and board-approved supervisor working in solo private practice. Bronwyn practices from a size-inclusive, non-diet and health at every size framework. Bronwyn has channeled her diet culture rage into passion with a new side hustle, Bobby Dazzler Dresses, a safe and inclusive space offering dress size higher in sizes 14 to 30 in Albury Wodonga. Beautiful. Well, welcome to the podcast, Bronwyn. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. And I guess to get started, can you tell me a little bit about your psychology journey and what led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so my journey is probably a little different. I studied mature age. So at this point in time, I'm now an endorsed health psychologist. I'm an credentialed eating disorder clinician and I'm a board approved supervisor. But I'm also a year 10 school leaver. So I kind of left school, did a few other bits and pieces, and then returned to uni as a mature age student. And then I kind of just shortcut all of that by saying I basically had a child for every degree. So I have 3 degrees and 3 children and just kind of did things, like a bit of a long way. Always kind of knew I wanted to do something around psychology or perhaps journalism. I really enjoy writing as well. Yeah, but so bit of a different pathway. And now I have my own private practice now. So I have sort of a couple of different jobs. I work in the public system in the persistent pain service. So that's kind of all coming under the umbrella of my health psych interests. And I do a lot of body image and eating sort of work in my private practice. So been in private practice for over a decade and solo just for me at the last just coming up 4 years.
Wow, so cool. I love that. I'm just, thinking you would be a great person to have as a supervisor. I think you, in terms of your different career path, like different career path to being a psychologist. I feel like being an early career psych as well, it would really, I don't know, it would make things, I'd feel a lot more comfy, I think, if
Yeah, that's
you
a good point,
somehow.
actually. And I actually really love providing supervision. I do. I really love that. It's just all about connection for me. Also having those experiences as coming in and doing my psychology training and as a mature age student and also at the time as a single parent. So doing all of that, I guess, brings something a little different to those experiences. And I know what sort of worked for me and what didn't. And certainly what got me through the psychology degrees was that I wanted to be there and I definitely did not want to be at school.
Yeah, that's an interesting, it's a good point you make there. Ugh. I'm trying to think back to like psychology degree. It was so intense. Being a single parent must have been
Mm.
oh, a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. My daughter, who is turning 30 this year, used to come along to my undergrad's lectures. So, yeah, I think she probably took it all in at some point.
Is,
Yeah, so look,
is she studying to be a psychologist?
she's actually a social worker.
And tell me about your health psychology.
Yeah, so I think from the outset, it wasn't something I specifically chose. I guess my interests kind of all just led in that direction of health psychology. I was always really, I guess, part of that, well, there's probably 2 streams of that. Part of it was my interest in body image and kind of eating concerns, which probably stemmed from my dissatisfaction, my own experiences in that area as a kind of adolescent and then getting older. And then the other side of that in terms of health psych just happened to be one of my first roles was within an occupational rehab role for a rehab provider. And I just became really fascinated with persistent pain. Just was really wanted to understand it. My whole thing about getting into psychology in general was the why. Just why is that like that, and why do people think that way? Why does that happen? And so I'm always really curious. And so I became really fascinated about it. And then subsequently, a job came up in the local persistent pain service, and so I've actually been there since then. So I'm in my 14th year. So yeah, and it's an amazing multidisciplinary team here in Albury Wodonga. Yeah, so it just so happened that those 2 areas were just kind of under the umbrella of health psychology. And here in Albury Wodonga, we don't really have a lot of postgraduate options. We have more now, but I did my undergrad here at La Trobe, and then my postgrad was the first kind of trial program. So we were kind of the guinea pigs, and we would travel between Albury Wodonga and Bendigo. and do sort of a block program for our postgrad year. And then when it came to choosing how I would go forward, whether I had trouble getting a supervisor locally and finding an internship. So I basically just chose to do a master's. And so Monash had a health psych master's. So that's kind of sort of all the roads just led to that. And then I've just, it's not all I do certainly, but it is definitely where my kind of interests and passion lie in terms of the whole mind body and looking at someone that way.
Wow, it's such an important role, but it's really complex work, right? I've had like
Mm,
colleagues that have worked in
mm.
persistent pain and they've loved it, but they just said that they couldn't stay in there for long term. So you must really thrive in.
I do, but actually that's really interesting because I wonder if that's because I've been part of this amazing team. So our multidisciplinary team, the way that we work like that is I'm alongside physios and OTs and other psychologists and allied health assistants and a doctor. So I think having that and you've got to have a really good team around you. I think potentially that's probably been why I have thrived so much. And then I kind of have taken that into my individual work. And so I suppose when I'm seeing a client individually, I'm kind of wearing all the hats in my mind, thinking about the broader perspective. So yeah, kind of on the reflection, that's probably why I've been able to stay in it so long.
Yeah, but that's such a great like point, isn't it, about that collaboration and the multidisciplinary teams, and it's such an incredible thing to have, particularly
Absolutely.
as a psychologist as well. But then also people who value the work of a psychologist, I think is
Absolutely. Yes.
a big
Yes.
thing.
The mutual
Yeah.
respect.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And tell me about, I'm so curious about being a supervisor and how long have you been a supervisor for?
How long have I supervised? That's a great question. So I think probably 7 or 8 years now. So I've seen a couple of intern psychs through their sort of 4+2 and then 5+1 pathway. And then I just sort of provide clinical supervision to psychologists, but also dietitians sometimes because of the work that I do in the eating sort of space.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really love that. I think we've probably all had varying experiences with different supervisors. And for me, I sort of have experienced ones where I've come out of a session and felt like I know nothing. Like that was a very much in my training going, oh, I don't know anything. I can't do this and that. Very much imposter syndrome. And then kind of the other end where I'm like, oh, no, this is okay. This is good. I'm learning. And I feel like I want to come away from, I don't want to be the expert in the supervision situation. I want to kind of come midway with that. I want people to feel comfortable to say that if they're not sure. And, we don't know what we don't. I think an openness and a curiosity in supervision is what I appreciate. And so that's, I guess, what I try to provide.
How lovely. I really like that because we've all had, like you said, we've all had experiences in supervision, which is like, oh, I remember the anxiety with some supervisors. And then, not to say that they probably just weren't a good fit for me, maybe. And so I
Yeah.
think it's so
It has to be the
important to
fit, though, doesn't it?
that
Yeah, absolutely. It's about the
exactly,
fit. Mm.
exactly. And but how lovely that, yeah, you can, I don't know, be that supervisor for people bringing in that curiosity stance and all of that. Is that how you are as a therapist as well? I should imagine.
Yeah, I think so. And and I honestly like on reflection of my career and my pathway to this career, I feel like all those years ago, I was just so what's the word? Like yeah, just feeling like there was too much to know and I couldn't possibly know it all. And it took me a lot of years to realize I would never know it all. So now I'm okay with that, now that I actually know that that's
Yes.
the case. But I think for me, my development as a psychologist with clients or as a supervisor I feel more at home with it the longer I do it. And I think particularly as I've gotten older and more experienced, more at home with just being me. So very much in terms of feeling really aligned and really authentic with what you see is what you get. And yes, I am professional and yes, I, provide evidence-based treatment and do all the things. I'm also me and really I just for me that feels like it's really aligned that and particularly now being in the solo practice I've created it is
Yeah.
just me, but it means it's fully aligned with my values and my
Okay.
whole philosophy of how I work. And so what you sort of get with me at a party would be what you get, in a professional space
Oh,
minus the dancing and the cocktails.
minus the dancing. Oh, that's amazing. that makes me so happy that you say that because it was something that I really struggled with, and I didn't realize I was struggling. That was a big part of my imposter syndrome, particularly in masters, was that I was like playing a psychologist, and
Yes.
so of course I was like, I actually was being a fraud because I
Yeah.
wasn't like being who I
Yes.
was. And so it
Yeah.
took like a lot of supervision to, yeah, be who I am and be authentic and feel comfortable with that without, yeah, putting on this.
Absolutely. And I think those experiences, particularly for me, what I would say to my supervisors now is was what my experience was. The more that I tried to stick to this sort of textbook idea of psychological treatment, the less effective I was because it's so far removed from kind of all the things about me that make me feel good about what I do and make me good at it. So I'm not saying that's not there. You've got to have the foundations and all of that. But then the more that I could just be me and realize that, I often felt when I came out of professional development, like I was like, again, oh, I know nothing. And then I felt like I was coming back into my practice with clients and I felt like I was kind of watering down the treatment. And it took me some really good supervision to kind of go, actually, no, I actually doing worse if I try and follow this in a textbook fashion. And so for me, blending the evidence base and pulling those techniques, but not in a very rigid way, and then combining that with who I am as a person, just is so much more effective, and I connect so much more with clients.
So happy that you say that. Well, I don't know what you think. Do you think that's a common thing? Like, or do psychologists maybe practice that way, but then they're a bit too scared to admit that? So they just say, oh, I do the textbook evidence-based thing, or what do you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because I mean, I don't know the full answer, but potentially, because I know that I was really apprehensive to say, oh, I didn't quite do it how it said, or, and now I'm having that experience where supervisors are coming to me saying, oh, I just did this training and this is now how I feel. I'm like, yep, so let's unpack that and let's talk about how we really needed the foundations. We needed all the ins and outs and the structure. But actually, what we know is that, if you, like, yes, when you're early career, you probably are going to be more effective if you're following that sort of structure. But if I tried to do that later in my career or more experience, then it's going to be less effective. So, yeah, I'm all about honesty. I feel like we just need to sometimes just say it's really hard what we do.
Yeah. Yes. No, I know the key times in my supervision that have been so helpful is just, yeah, with like, yeah, she's like, yeah, it's really hard. I'm like, thank you. Like,
Yeah,
it's nice
absolutely.
to have
So
that
validating.
message. Absolutely. And tell me all about your side hustle and how and why you started it.
Oh, how much time have you got? I could talk all night.
I love it.
So passionate, so excited to talk about it. So
Oh,
basically, this was me channeling my rage into passion. I An idea came to me that I just could not let go of, and it was something that once the idea came, I just ruminated on it for a full 24 hours and went, "Fuck it, I'm just going to do it." Pretty much, I just had a fuck it moment. So the lead up to this moment was really a few different layers, particularly having held space for so many years for predominantly women who hated their bodies, hated
mhm.
themselves, fought against their bodies. We're all living in this diet culture that says we all should be thin, we all should be this thin ideal, and we should look in a certain way. And those pressures, they just become too much. And I suppose, initial, as everyone does, have a kind of a normative discontent with their body as they're growing up, which, the fact that it's normative is enraging to me,
It
but that's
is.
kind of where we are. So, having experienced my own body image concerns and then changes in my body shape and size over time, and then sharing space for my clients who are so distressed people coming in from the full spectrum of, kind of the pointy end of really severe eating disorders to disordered eating to chronic dieting, and so the whole spectrum. And so that grew. My experience with that kind of grew into a space where I was becoming so enraged at the world, really, because
Mhm.
this is not an issue that is happening in a vacuum inside a woman's head. This is the culture that we live in. And so when we can do the work that we do individually with someone, but then they go out into the world and they can't walk into a shop and buy the clothes that fit their body because they only go to a certain size. So we can, when we're not inclusive, we're told our body is wrong. And I'd had lots of experiences of advocating and supporting clients through really significant experiences of weight bias and weight stigma, and I've seen the detrimental effect that that has on someone's mental health, particularly when they're trying to recover from an eating disorder. And so that was my kind of context. And then I was going to lots, I'm quite social, I was going to lots of social events. And locally here, there were some dress hire businesses. And I was sort of hearing, I'm hiring this dress, or I hired this dress for this event. And I was starting to talk to my friends about that. And basically, what came to light was that these dress hire businesses didn't go higher than a size 14 or 16. And I made an inquiry and asked about that to one particular that was quite prominent in the area. And I really just was not okay with the response that I received. And that's when I couldn't let the idea go. And so I thought, well, if no one else is going to do this, I'm going to be the change I want to see in the world. And so Bobby Dazzler Dresses was born.
Wow, beautiful. Makes me so happy in one way, but like absolutely the rage and the
Mm, mm,
it's fucked, isn't it? It really
yeah,
is.
exactly.
And that must be so hard, like sitting in sessions with your patients or your clients and for them to be witness to all of that. But then you see the larger, like the context of where we live and our culture and all of that.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, of course, yeah,
yeah. Of course you
of
feel that way. Of
course.
course you do. Of
Yeah.
course you feel like you're not okay in the world. And, I feel like for me, I mean, there's so much that needs to change, and we can talk about, waiting room chairs and the size of that, and blood pressure cuffs that don't fit. And we can talk about all of the things that people in larger bodies experience. And I guess when we think about, wearing a dress, it might not seem like it's a serious enough issue. And I suppose for me, I feel like it's one of those things where women would just say no to invitations, or they would go, oh, no, I won't go to that, or they would wear the same dress every time. And for me, although it's, a dress, I don't know whether it seems a bit flippant when we think about all the kind of medical stigma and things that people experience. But I believe that all bodies should be celebrated and deserve to be celebrated. And why should one body feel included and another shouldn't? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's so true in terms of, like, people turning down invitations, and it has such a like, a ripple effect in their
Mm.
whole life. Wow. And tell me about the process for starting your business. Like, are you business orientated? Was that a easy thing to do, or
Yeah, what a great question, because apparently I am, but I didn't know that. I didn't set out to be, I guess, a business owner as such. Initially with my psychology practice, that was sort of occurred for me at a time where I needed to create something that fit with what was happening for me in my life at the time. And so going solo and creating my business sort of, happened through COVID and lots of family stuff happening at the same time. And I kind of needed to do it. So I had to kind of learn all those things about how do you have a business? I'm a psychologist and this is what I do clinically, but also then how do I actually do this in the structure of a business? So I learned a lot then, but I guess for me then, so I suppose, yes, on reflection, I had some grounding to that, to running a business. But then really, I don't know, it was such a scary and exciting thing to create Bobby Dazzler from scratch. And really, when I say I couldn't let go of the idea, I literally could not let go of the idea. And I don't often hyper focus on things. It's not a strength I have. But when it came to this, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I created every little bits and piece of it until it was ready. And I loved that, because I would not describe myself as a creative person. I would say that I don't really have any kind of talents like that in terms of creativity. I love to write, so I love the social media aspect, but that was something I probably hadn't even envisioned and didn't really think that that was going to be a huge part. I was like, just how do I get a whole heap of dresses for different size bodies was kind of what I was
yes.
focused on. And so I was obsessively buying dresses. So that was fun, but not so
So
not
fun.
so, not so fun for my credit card and my husband.
You're right, there's something about that, about does the creativity come from the idea, or is it something that we have inside ourselves and it is dormant until we have an idea, or I don't know how that,
Yeah.
like,
I think that's
works.
actually what that is touching on, is my definition of creativity and my perception of myself. I think what that's
Oh,
getting to. So
yeah.
when I used to think about creativity, I was like, oh, you created something that you can show me, like you did an art piece and I suppose, yes,
Yes.
I did create something I can show you, but for me, what I have realized through different business plans and having to really define what I'm doing is that actually I am a creator. I created Bobby Dazzler dresses. And so I talk so passionately about it because it was this idea I couldn't let go of, and I'm living it, I'm doing it, and it's working, it's so yeah, I created something and it is out there in the world, even if the world at the moment is it's a little local small world. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like literally you've created something into being, but there is something so creative about business. There it really is. I
Which I
think
didn't realize, but absolutely there is.
yeah,
Yeah.
really. I'm really curious about the name, Bobby Dazzler Dresses. Tell me
Yes.
about that.
So Bobby Dazzler is me. So essentially, Bobby was a nickname. So Bobby Dazzler was a nickname. Well, Bob or Bobby was a nickname that my sister gave me early on when we were teenagers, and that kind of stuck through our local community here, particularly the water polo community. I play sport and I play with my sister, and everybody
Mm.
in that community would know me as Bobby. And my sister would, across the pool say, "Go, Bobby Dazzler." And so it was just something that kind of stuck. And then when I was trying to think, what am I going to call this business? It's got to have meaning. It's got to be me, but it's got to say dresses. And then I was like, oh, what does Bobby Dazzle actually mean other than my nickname? And of course, it means a spectacular thing, personal thing. And so that's how I see all women. So, Bobby Dazzler it just represents how I want women to feel about themselves.
It gives me goosebumps. How how lovely that it has so much meaning. And it's such a unique name as well, which is so important, for branding and SEO and all of that. But then also to have
Well,
something that's
yeah.
so impactful.
Yeah, but that's been I didn't know that. So I think, when we think about things we don't know, I didn't realize that. I wanted a name that fit really well with what I was doing and that meant something genuine to me. But I didn't actually realize that that would then be a brand in itself. And that's been really cool. And actually, in terms of identity, so I've had experiences where in the local business women's community, when I started Bobby Dazzler, the reason I suddenly thought, oh, perhaps I can propel this is because there was some business grants available. And so I went for a grant and actually won one. So, yeah, so that was just amazing because I guess for two reasons. One, obviously the initial funds to set everything up, but also it allowed me to kind of go, oh, I've got to write a business plan. I've got to refine what I'm doing and define that and put that out into the world and start talking about it. So it really gave me the opportunity to think about the language and what felt right for me. And then as that kind of went on and I got to know more people and was networking in that amazing business community, I became known as Bobby Dazzler. And so that was then really interesting because more recently I was asked to be on a panel as a health psychologist for the Butterfly Foundation here in Albury. And
Oh,
everyone was like,
wow.
wait, hang on a minute, what's Bobby Dazzle doing up there talking about? So I think it really depended on, I guess I was saying I wear many hats and they all, for me at the moment, kind of intersect and collide because it's all me. It's my, it feels really authentic. But I guess for people on the outside, it depends what kind of context you've met me in.
Yeah, wow. That makes me so excited to hear that all of your roles are like interconnecting, but it's you and you
Yes.
feel like this beautiful, comfortable
Yeah.
space. Has it always been like that, or was it a bit hard at the start to juggle the two?
So Bobby Does is fairly new. So I launched March 2023. The idea was
Oh,
born
wow.
November, December. So it's fairly new. Yeah. So I don't have that kind of longevity yet to sort of say that, but certainly at the start, I was very conscious of my role as a psychologist and my ethical boundaries and what's this mean and what could happen and all the scenarios. And I sought supervision specifically around that through some amazing people in group supervision as well as individual.
Mm.
And you kind of go to that more anxious, anticipatory. Ooh, what am I not thinking of? What have I got to think about? And honestly, the more that I then did that, I was like, oh, this is actually really fine. This is good. We just need to communicate because I would have, clients these amazing people who are like, I want to come see the dresses. And I'm like, fantastic. Come and do that on a day when that's open. But they're very separate. But at the same time, it is me. It's authentically, I'm saying this is something I feel really strongly about in the world because I feel I really value social justice. And so for me, doing the work that I do in a psychological sense and then having this on the side is authentic. It's me saying this is in the world, we should be able to have all things equal and inclusive in terms of sizing.
Absolutely, and you're living in it so genuine and authentic. And oh, can we talk a little bit, if you feel comfy about that, like ethics and as a
Mm.
psychologist in particular, and holding those two roles? Because it's something that I know listeners are very well, like in terms of the Facebook group, I ask people when they join, like what their biggest like wobble or mindset wobble is surrounding having a creative business, and it's all the psychologists are like APRA, ethics, the therapy police.
Scary big brother.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Look, am I going to get audited if I say that I'm probably a bit more lax with it all now than I used to be? No. Let me expand on that. So,
We can edit that
what
out. Yeah.
yeah, but what I mean by that is thinking about that. Like, I obviously I'm very, as we all have to be, very mindful of ethics and boundaries. And I also work in a regional area. So, what fits here in this location may not fit in a city. And so if I had, my worlds may never collide if I was in a city, but of course here they're going to. They're absolutely going to. For me, my initial concerns were the crossover in terms of, because obviously you've got to look at that potential to make profit of something. And so dress hire, whilst it's really never going to make money, of course it is seen that you are charging people money. So for me, that was a concern, as well as the very vulnerable space that clients are in and then perhaps wanting to come in and try on dresses. So very well aware that that is a very different context, coming in and being helped with trying a dress on, or coming in and talking about body image in a psychological setting. So really well aware of all of those types of things. And then also I've had to really bite my tongue and be very well aware of the hat I'm wearing in the dress hire space, because women will also become distressed and be beating themselves up and being really critical. And my instinct is to say all the things, and I know that that's not my space or place to do that. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, it definitely does, but I think it just speaks to that there's not exactly a clear answer, and particularly working in, a regional area, like, right, it's
Absolutely. And I think that the other aspect of that is, I guess, being kind of the face of Bobby Dazzler and the face of, I am a psychologist. And so there's that, I mean, for me, I'm very, I guess, who I am and what I do is not hidden. I'm not going to hide personal aspects. I'm not going to cross boundaries and share all my personal details with clients. And at the same time, I am going to probably, I'm going to present a little bit more personally in the dress hire space. I'm going to say, I'm going to speak in my language, and I might say that differently in a professional space. So I guess there is that. And I'm really okay with people seeing that and having that kind of different context, which, on reflection might feel weird for some clients, kind of going, oh, okay, that's my psychologist. What's she doing outside the office? Doing that and talking about dresses. So that can feel weird when you feel like a psychologist is just in that chair and they don't have a life outside that chair.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
100% about that, which is so interesting to think about, you know, in terms of bringing that up and bringing that into the room and talking about that with patients.
Mhm.
It gives a lot of there's a lot of material there that can be very useful, that maybe if, yeah, it was just in the therapy chair in that room, that's it. It kind of,
Mhm.
I don't know, not restricts things, but it just opens up a whole new world to be explored
Mm.
potentially.
Mm. Yeah, for sure.
Kind of an interesting thing. Speaking about so Bobby Dazzler opened in March 23, did you say? Yeah.
Yeah, so March last year, I had a sort of a soft launch. It had, yeah, been kind of building from the November, December prior.
And how has having the creative side hustle impacted your clinical work?
Yeah, so I didn't really know that this would happen for me, but being able to, as I said, channel that rage into passion, it's actually really helped with burnout. It's helped prevent that. Whilst yes, there's more things on my plate. There's more time that needs to be balanced, because I am doing something that feels so right and it's fun, and I've met the most amazing women and seen women who are like, oh, I could not ever, try that on, or I would never have picked that up before, but have said, because you've created a safe space, I felt okay to try this different dress on. And then that's the one they walk out the door with. Like, that's amazing. So to have that kind of balance out some of the real kind of toxic diet culture stuff that, we're talking about in the therapy room, it's really empowering actually, and it has actually balanced it out a bit. And I think, those aspects of my psychology work being, a few layers to that, probably working long term as a psychologist, but also long term with long term eating disorders. So these are not short therapy stints. We have to take care of ourselves when we work in that space, and also with pain. So these are not things that kind of just go away and then the person's all good. And so, along the way, the frustrations we might feel, and also working solo and all of that can lead to. So I've been completely burnt out solely because of work, but at times definitely when there's been other things happening for me, for sure. And I really feel that having this it's something that's really exciting. It is a creative outlet. I feel that it makes it feel lighter in the therapy space for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As you're talking, I'm just like ferociously nodding my head and
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. It makes me so happy in a way that you say about that, like with the burnout and how it's helped soften the blowing, because you're right, it's like it channels rage, whatever, like all of those
Mhm.
totally human emotions. It channels it,
Mm.
having a creative outlet
Yeah,
into
it's like I
something.
can't change all of these things that I'm getting so angry about, but I can change this one thing. I can make a difference here. This is what and genuinely it has made a difference, and that may not be on a large scale, but it definitely is making a difference for people, and it's made a difference for me, and then for my friends and my family, and then the broader community. And I'm really proud of that because, also it's not just me. Like, Bobby Dazzle is me, but I'm surrounded by this huge network of support, and it wouldn't be Bobby Dazzle without that. And so, I hope that this is something the community can own and go, we have this here, we have this inclusive space, this safe space where we can go and celebrate our bodies, and we don't have to dread the invitation. We don't have to just wear black, we can, yeah.
Yeah, that's it's so important. Have you had much PR around the shop?
So yes, little bits and pieces. So because I did apply for one of the local businesswomen's grants, there was a fair bit of sort of social media advertising through that inadvertently. And then the local paper did a story. This is probably, I'm at a point now where I'm going, okay, what do I do now? Because I sort of had a natural growth of followers from that. And now I'm kind of going, oh, okay, like this is something you have to continue to work at because this is business. And so I think the reality of that now, that kind of the honeymoon phases, yeah. So apparently I'm still going to keep working at it. So yeah, so I think what I'm doing, and actually that's been really great because I'm linking into some business supports, which is actually going to be for both. So for my hustle, my dressage hustle, as well as for my psychology practice, I'm like, oh, because I feel lighter and I feel more inspired and my brain's working a little better, I'm like, oh, great. Okay. So I don't just have to keep doing the same thing in my private practice. I can think about whether I want changes or how to improve. So it's actually kind of had that bounce off effect for that.
Oh, that's so cool to hear that, like, yeah, by having the creative outlet or, yeah, creative side hustles, it's allowed you to maybe expand or rethink how your
Mhm.
private practice could be.
Mm.
Yeah, that's such a
Yeah,
good
and
point.
I couldn't have pictured that would have that
Yeah.
impact. But
Wow.
I suppose maybe now I'm reflecting, it's kind of like because this was created from nothing, from scratch, and you kind of do all these things and it grows into something and it becomes something, then it does kind of has inspired me to kind of go, well, yeah, okay, so that can happen. So we can do that with other things. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's interesting. My master's thesis was on art therapy with psychologists as an intervention for burnout. And one of the
Oh,
major,
wow.
yeah, which was amazing. And we also needed it. We were definitely burned out. And the biggest finding in terms of like the quantitative data was like a significant increase in self-efficacy, which makes sense now that like you're saying, yeah,
Yeah.
now I'm seeing that
Totally.
in practice. Yeah. How
Wow,
cool.
yes. Oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
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 Really need to publish that study.
Yeah,
It's been
yes, please, yeah.
on the to-do list for a few years now. It's awesome. So what are you thinking for your private practice? Have you got any ideas floating around?
Yeah, I guess I have ideas floating around that I haven't really landed on anything yet. I think I'm at the stage where I'm thinking, well, for me, I probably could want to diversify some of what I do or how I do what I do. I'm also thinking whether I expand, do I stay kind of just hanging out on my own? For me, it's really important that if I was to expand, that whoever I was connected with had very, shared values in terms of the size inclusive approach, health at every size, non-diet. That's really, really important to me. Yeah, so if I were to find my people and there was a kind of a really mutual, nice, authentic connection, then I would consider expanding. But for me individually, I think just diversifying a little bit and thinking, and I guess like part of what I've really loved with the side hustle is teaching myself social media. And like I did social media before personally, but also a little bit for my practice. But then I have to do a whole lot of it for the dress hire. So Bobby Dazzler kind of had to be created from scratch with all of that. And that was actually really fun. And so there's so much we can do online now. And so I think for me, I'm like, oh, I could, there are so many different things I could do. And so I suppose I'm kind of looking at that and what I've enjoyed creating there and thinking, how can I apply that to my practice and perhaps do something that is a little bit more creative in that space rather than what I do is the bulk is really individual therapy. Yeah.
There's so many options, but that's so
There
cool
is
that,
lots of
yeah,
options.
it's
Yeah. It's got to feel right. And I keep doing the sort of, oh, yep, just this, oh, no, I don't know. And, kind of, it's a little bit of the fear thing, but I guess much like Bobby Dazzle was, once I landed on it, once I was like, oh, yeah, then there was no going back because I just had to. And so when I land on that for my practice, that I will do that. So, yeah. And very much my practice was created that way. It was like, yes, out of necessity, needing a framework to do my practice, but at the time, I taught myself how to do the website, and I worked out all the ins and outs of things. So some things that I didn't know, and so I feel like all of those skills can come together to kind of keep creating something a little bit different and to keep the passion there.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited to see what you do. But how great that you enjoy all the online marketing because that's often something
Mm.
that people don't like. So that's
Yeah, I find it fun. Yeah, it is fun. And I feel like I think that links into being authentic and that Bobby Dazzler is me because whatever I put out there is genuine. I'm kind of not trying to sound like something else. I'm not trying to be something else. It's just all me. It's all my words. And, the pictures, the models that I use are all friends and family of all different body sizes and local community members. And so my son is a photographer. He's so talented, and
oh,
it's just
lovely.
everything you see is just me and the people that support me and surround me. So it feels really beautiful and really special, and that's absolutely not something that I predicted when I started.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, I'm so happy for you that
Mhm.
you get to do that but you get to give that gift to so many people. That's a
Yeah,
beautiful thing.
yeah,
Oh,
and
nice.
that response from others that's been really nice. Just the emotional side of people really just saying thank you for creating the space. And people have told me even through just, trying on dresses that they feel like they're healing. And, that's huge. There's lots of different ways to heal. Mm,
Yes, well, there really is, but even just having the shop there, like, it's a reminder, right? It's, like, so symbolic, I think.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I won't even put the dresses in size order because I don't want to focus on the tag size, right? Like I just don't even want that. It's like, don't worry about the tag. Just if it looks like it's going to fit, let's just try it. If it doesn't matter. You don't have to change to fit that dress. That dress has got to fit you and you got to feel comfortable in it.
Wow, shit. Yeah, like, that's such a like, to put it, politely, like a mind fuck, like, how shops
Right?
set up
Right?
in, like oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we walk out feeling like, oh, well, I've got to go change my body because I didn't fit into that. Like, well, no, no, no. That's not you. That's fashion industry. That's the world. So, there's so much in it that I didn't realize. And so not just ignoring the tag size, but making sure the clothing that I'm purchasing is adaptable, that it's stretchy and not restrictive and that different size bodies can wear it. So, I'll promote something and all my dresses have names. So they're quite personalized. So that's fun. I name them all. And so I'll say, introducing whoever it might be. And I might say tag size 18 fits 16-ish to 20-ish because it's adaptable, and that is also in line with my value of sustainability. Like, let's find a piece of clothing that is adaptable for lots of different people, could be worn by lots of different people, and not, we often buy one expensive dress and it hangs in the back of the cupboard forever.
Oh,
So
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah. So it hits a few
yeah,
values. Mm.
yeah. And like how lovely that you can set it up how you want, you know?
Yeah,
Who cares what everyone
yeah.
else is doing? It's like I'm gonna do it my way, and
That
that's
that
so
is
exciting.
actually that is actually a really cool part. I feel like of the stage I'm in life I'm at, and that's that's sort of like not what that I meant that I'm going to go against a Big Brother APRA, not at all. But it is very nice to be able to realize you're at a stage of life where you can do things the way you want to do them within those boundaries and confines, and that's ethical
Yeah.
and all of that for both businesses. But actually, it's kind of like going, "Oh, I'm the adult. There's no adultier adult to find to do,"
Yeah.
And so that's really empowering, like a little bit
Yeah.
scary, but you're like, "Wow, I can do whatever I want. It's mine." Yeah,
Yeah, so true. I'm so relatable about that. Yeah, like you realize this is mine, it's my business. And even with the psychology, it's like, yeah, APRA's there and the rule, our rules and ethics are there and like they're so
yeah,
important and they're boundaries, but it doesn't mean that we can
yeah.
work in a way that still fits us. It,
Absolutely. And that's what I feel like when we do that, when certainly for me, when I do that and I'm me and naturally, just feel natural and relaxed in it, I do better work. I connect in a more authentic way. And that's helpful for clients. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's so helpful. That's what I've reflected on since I've started my copywriting and feeling comfortable with that. And then also feeling comfortable having the two. Like my retention's so much better. I'm getting better results with my patients. Like it's
Yeah.
fun. Yesterday I had a full day, like back to back patients, and at the end of it I was fine. And I've never been like that before. It was
Yes.
wild. I was like, is this how it can
Ah.
be?
Oh my gosh. I used to be halfway through the day and I'd be like, I don't feel tired, but my eyes can't stay. They feel like sand. Like I just can't. And now I'm like, this is amazing. I love it. And I've created space and it's all bright and light. And I'm like, this is great. Not saying I never get tired. That's not a miracle answer for that. But yeah, I feel like when you set yourself up and I guess it's what we are trying to help clients with. If you can work in line with your values and live the life you want to live, then we feel better. It's such a simple thing, yet so complex sometimes. And it doesn't
Yes.
seem as simple when there are struggles. But I think when you've experienced that, when you can just be yourself and create an environment around you and create kind of the life you want to live and that structure and having a little bit of freedom, we're not all afforded that. But I think that's what I feel really lucky about and grateful that I can kind of, my children are a little older now, so I'm not rushing home for dinner and they're actually fine if I've got to stay and do another, someone's coming to try a dress on. That's okay. So, there's certain freedoms that come with that flexibility in this stage of my life and career.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful gift to have. I was interviewing someone recently, Rachel, who's a florist, and she was saying that it's expanded her having a
Mm.
creative business on the side. Like she didn't know how amazing life could be.
Yes, yeah. And I don't think there's no way that I knew that, like there's no way I could have known that when I started the side hustle that it was going to bring all of these other benefits. I really genuinely was just like, I cannot not do this. Like, I can't let this go. This is not okay. And if no one's going to do it, I'm going to do it. And then just kind of launched. And just once it started, I couldn't stop creating it. And I didn't really think about those, I suppose, consequences or benefits for me. I didn't really think about that. I was more thinking about what I wanted to put out into the world and what I wanted to create for others to make it more inclusive. And of course, I'm part of that because, I was impacted by it, the same as other women. But yeah, don't think I realized that it would come with all of these nice perks. Yeah.
Yes. That's yeah, but you've spoken to something that's like bigger than yourself, right? Like it's
Mm,
that thing that well, you can't not do it now because you've got that idea and it feels so important
yes. And that's
and you
amazing.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
To have
cool.
that and be like, yeah, like, yeah, I'm going to change the world in this tiny
Yeah,
little way, but I'm going
this
to
tiny little way, but you're changing the world for someone, and that's so
Yeah.
powerful, so powerful.
Yeah.
And what advice, or Is there anything that you wish now that you wish you knew at the start when you were first setting up your side hustle?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I think it depends on where you're at with your knowledge. It kind of links back to your question around sort of, do you know anything about business kind of thing? So I suppose it's very, very much depends on context. So I think I had kind of a starting point. I don't know what I wish I knew, but what I probably would say in terms of advice was surround yourself with your people and talk to the people who are going to be real with you and have that support and lean into that. Because once I did that, for me, it was like, it really helped me refine going, because obviously it was a big idea and I had to kind of bring it back down to earth a little bit. And that was really through the help of people that I trusted and who were kind of, really there to support me and wanted the best and saw it's something in that. And so I think whether that accessing any kind of business supports and resources, but also just the people around you that are going to give you good advice and bounce off you and help you out, because I honestly couldn't have done this on my own. It really did take the help and support of all of those people around me. So I think for anyone, find people and talk to people. There's something really valuable in that, in connecting with others, and we all learn from each other. So kind of going, hey, I know about this side, but I have no idea about this. You want to swap some resource? I think that's an amazing resource to tap into in our communities.
And support is so incredibly important. I'm so excited for you that you have it's a community affair and a family affair, and how lovely.
It's
I'm
really
really
cool.
excited to
It's really
keep an eye out. So now for my secret favorite part of the interviews, which is the rapid fire questions. Now, Bronwyn, or Bobby Dazzler, as I maybe should say, what is your favorite film, a concert you'll never forget, and an absurd thing about you or an absurd thing that you love?
My favorite movie of all time is Good Will Hunting, but if I was going to watch something funny, it'd have to be Bridesmaids or Pitch Perfect. Concert I will never forget, Alanis Morissette. I've seen her all 4 times she's come to Australia. Amazing. An absurd thing that I love would have to be my love of wearing comfortable pajamas and T-shirts to the point where they have holes in them. My family think it's absolutely absurd.
And then speaking of that, how can listeners find you both in person and online?
Yeah, absolutely. So if listeners are local to Albury Wodonga in our little community here, so I have regular walk-in wardrobes is what I call them. So little pop-ups and then by appointment. So people can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Bobby Dazzler Dresses. And yeah, just send me a message if somebody wants to come in. So at this stage, I'm really just only for in person. I'm not kind of going too big too soon in terms of mailing in Australia or anything like that. So it really is just for our community here. But yeah, really want to grow the followers, to grow so that the word is out there, because it really is, more than dresses. So yeah, follow along the journey.
Definitely. I'll pop all of those links in the links to your socials and everything in the show notes. But is there anything that you feel like you need to say, or anything that came up that I didn't ask?
Honestly, I don't think so. That was just so nice to be able to reflect on all of those aspects, and there probably was something burning that I will remember it to in the morning. But no, I mean, no, I think it's a really good sign that the passion is still there for me, when I'm just like, this is really cool. And obviously it's hard to, with anything we do, to try and keep the energy up and do all of that. And I think, Bobby Dazzler's kind of now on its own little journey. And so, there's been, a little lull, and I'm like, oh, okay, right, hang on a minute, I've got to keep doing this. I just love what it is doing for women, and for women to allow themselves to feel vulnerable, to kind of, not see their body as a problem, and to be able to, just to celebrate it and to feel comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It really is. Yeah. Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing all of that.
Thank you.
It definitely gives me energy.
Yeah,
so welcome.
So cool what you're doing. I love it. Thank you so much. What a cool, I love it. Healers with Hustles. I'm just like, that's me. I need to be there.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
I love it so much.
Healers with Hustles. That's it.
Love it.
Oh, love beautiful. It. Thank you so much, Bronwyn.
You're so welcome.
All right. That's the end of another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Healers with Hustles. If you've enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a tiny favor and subscribe to the show? Just tap the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and you'll be the first to know as soon as a new episode drops. Thanks so much for listening. Okay, ta-ta for now.